All right. Hi, all. Well, thanks so much for joining. So I am Marnie Stockman from Lifecycle Insights, and I have with me Larry from MSPCFO, and we're going to chat about finding opportunities within your existing client base. So I can't remember, like, am I passing it over to you, Larry, or I'm passing it over to you first. How's that for not reading my own slide deck?
There you go. First of all, Marnie, thank you very much for having me on. I would say that one of the nice things about being in the space is I've met some very nice people, and I definitely count you among them. And for those of you who don't know me, I founded MSPCFO about 8-10 years ago. Depends how you define when the company started. We did consulting first. We've been selling the product for about 7 years.
Gotcha.
And what we try to do is it's a business intelligence product where we try to show people how they can make more money with their existing business. And Marnie, I really enjoyed chatting with you about a variety of issues over the past year that we've seen each other at conferences, and I'm looking forward to today.
So I will tell you that at the last conference I was at, you had already hopped a flight out, or I would have drug you over to get the kudos for you. But somebody said, you know what, my favorite presenter is Larry because he dives right into the data and shows you exactly where you can find opportunities within your existing client base. And I think I emailed you directly after that and said, Larry, we should have a conversation around finding opportunities within your existing client base. So for those of you who don't know me, we launched at IT Nation 2019. I'm one of the co-founders of Lifecycle Insights. Here we are pictured as the nerds you were looking for, because who doesn't need a QBR VCIO tool? And you bet your assets we have the insights you need. So Larry and I are going to take a different approach today because we want to chat a little bit about why your existing client base is a good place to start with conversation. And then we're each going to show how inside our platforms we can actually help you identify pieces. So I'm going to stop sharing. And Larry, I thought we'd start with some conversation around it first. And would you like me to throw the poll up now, or do you want to chat a bit?
Not just yet.
Okay.
As we get into it, Marnie, I think part of your presence, and everybody knows this, is that you were a teacher and an school administrator in a former life. It's been a while, but I think it formed a lot of what you bring to the table. I think my background is, well, I was never a teacher, although not really. I think a lot of what I've done informs how I try to serve the community. I've worked in private equity. I've worked at a hedge fund as a stock picker. I've worked in corporate finance. I've worked in product management. And one of the things that I learned over time is, yes, you can have a P&L. Yes, you can try to understand making more money and reducing costs. But when it really gets interesting, in my view, is if you can understand how different companies make money. So let me ask you a couple of questions and see if you can answer this, because these are companies I've come across in my career.
Yeah.
Let's start with probably the most obvious one, Amazon.
Okay.
How does Amazon make money?
I would say, well, I mean, Amazon, the obvious answer is the margin between what they're selling products for and what they are, making, what their costs are. Improving operational efficiency to deliver something to your door would be if you forced me to give a sentence for their pitch. What's the real answer?
The cloud.
The cloud.
It is about 15 to 20% of their revenue, and it is 60 to 70% of their earnings. Them being a retailer is a loss leader almost for their cloud business. AWS is how Amazon makes almost all their business, makes almost all their money, and it is almost all of their growth. They grow by 30.
The funny thing was, I knew you were going to ask me questions. I also was okay with the fact that I'm going to be wrong on all of these.
It's fine. No, but the point is, if you look at Amazon, I mean, you see Amazon trucks everywhere. You get Amazon packages. You're missing something. You think, I'm going to go on Amazon. I'm going to get more. I got more dog biscuits this morning. Which is great, but that's not how they make money. They make their money on their cloud. And as the cloud grows, they will do better as a company. So that's the first one. Let's think of another company. So they make money as a side business, as actually what they did is they turned a cost center operating cloud into a profit center, and they've done phenomenally well with it.
Clearly, yeah.
Second question. Morgan Stanley. I worked at Morgan Stanley for a bunch of years. I worked at Citi and Morgan Stanley. The group got switched. How does Morgan Stanley make money?
Oh,
Specifically,
I feel like I'm watching a commercial. We make money when you make money. That's not Morgan Stanley, for the record. So specifically what?
I specifically the wealth management side of it, because investment banking goes up and down depending on what the market is.
Sure. So I would imagine in scaling wealth for their clients. But I feel like, oh, somebody's putting investments in fossil fuels is what's in the
Not
chat.
an
Yeah,
ESG
feel free to
discussion.
help me out in the chat, please, because I'm going to get all of these wrong. Have you talked with Larry? He's very smart. Okay, so where am I wrong here?
They make money as a bank. They are a bank in disguise. They make their expenses pretty much match their revenue, and all of their profit comes from interest income.
Interest. Oh,
So
interesting.
when we were living in a low interest rate environment, they weren't making very much money, but as interest rates now are going up, they're going to start making a lot more money. They are a bank in disguise, which is interesting because you look at Morgan Stanley and you don't hire them to be a bank. You hire them to be an asset manager. You hire them for advice. You hire them for all those services. But they really make all their money from interest rates as a bank. Okay, last one for you.
Okay.
And this will feed back into the MSP space.
Oh, I have every confidence it will.
Okay, so you know the difference between, I did some work in consulting. We worked with Pepsi and Pepsi bottling.
Okay.
So you know there's two different companies. One company makes a syrup, the other company actually sells the product.
Yeah.
And there's, I don't know, 15, 20 Pepsi bottlers across the US. How do Pepsi bottlers, what product do they make all their money on?
Dearland, this is probably like a bottle caps or something. I don't like at this point
Well, no,
knowing
it's soda, but I mean, what size soda?
Oh, what size soda in a bottling company? I would imagine the largest, the smallest for a bottling company.
The ones you grab from a gas station. So they have multi-pack, which would be a 6-pack or a case. They have the large, which would be like a 3-liter. But when you go into the gas station and spend $1.79 for a Diet Coke,
oh, okay, gotcha.
they make a killing. That's the only way that they make money.
You should have asked me when's the last time I had a soda, because there was a 19 in front of it, and so like I have no
Dasani water. I mean, any or Gatorade or any of the products.
Okay, that's fair. I've had a water.
But the point is, everything they do. Oh gosh, we're getting people commenting on our.
It's called pop.
Everything they do is to get you to drink soda, but they make all their money on one size. They want you to go into Taco Bell and buy Pepsi so that you're thirsty for a Pepsi when you go to the gas station.
Yeah.
So it's really about understanding where people make money. And when I look at the MSP space, well, there's not really a huge loss leader. Everybody tries to make money about the same way. There's no hidden, secret. Facebook sells your data.
We're not going to get all the answers wrong like I have the rest of the day.
MSPs make money, in my view, by continual improvement. That's how they make more money. I think what we have found in our experience is that MSPs can grow if they can take their existing book of business and find out ways to make more money in it. Selling is super important. It is incredibly difficult. I would argue the best return on effort, the best way to drive the bottom line at MSP, and I think this is you and I coming at it from slightly the same angle, but really the same question, is working their book of business, whether it's a quarterly review to find additional opportunities or identifying inefficiencies in pricing or operations that will drive the bottom line. And remember, if you have somebody who's already in the door and you're already working with them, you can probably make about as much money as you would for the first year that you had to bring a new client in and you had to onboard them and go through all of that. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today, or what I was excited to talk to you about, and with everybody here. Is talk about, well, I have these clients. I am, by a lot of measures, a successful managed service provider. How do I make more money? And I would argue a lot of it is sitting there in your book.
And the stats would show that.
Oh, yeah.
It's easier to keep a client than it is to get a new one, to your point, right? There's opportunity within your existing client base. Some of the consultants we work with say easy 30% year over year, right? If you're having the right conversations the right way. It's in a down economy, this is how companies grow, is within their existing customer base. So if we're looking at a down economy, this is the answer to that question.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, so we can talk a little bit. So, my understanding, and I know this is, you've invited me on your call, is that Lifecycle Insights, the way that will manifest itself, that your product to help clients, to help MSPs make more money, is by identifying opportunities to, with perfect reason, to sell additional products to their client, to make the very strong business case for why additional services or additional projects need to be sold. And I think that's awesome, because there is a real opportunity there. And again, you're leveraging an existing relationship as opposed to being somebody who walks in off the street and says, listen, I can sell you more stuff.
Well, and I think what you said is really important, is not just the existing relationship piece, but you said with very reasonable business outcomes, right? So you're not just selling to sell, right? It's not just like one more widget for the sake of a cool widget. It is, this stack will make you more secure, scalable, supportable, et cetera, right? But we're also driving business outcomes through the thoughtful use of technology, right? So how are we making your employees more productive? How are we saving you maybe FTEs? How are we driving more business? How are we making you more profitable, right? Those are all things that the end.
How are you closing security gaps? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, how are you aligning to, yes, closing the security gap, eliminating risk, et cetera. So all of those are the business answers that folks are looking for, and the MSPs have the solutions for that. So that's 100% what we're driving. And likewise, I want to see, so when people tell me, like, I love the way Larry shows what they do, because you take some of what we look at and drive even deeper to find some of those unique, in the same way that I was wrong on all 4 of the initial questions, right? You look at different ways to drive profitability within the existing customer base as well. So do you want to go? Or you want me to go?
I can jump into it if you like. Well, I had sent you earlier a poll question. Would you mind putting that up for just 30 seconds or 60 seconds?
Yeah, please. If you're in the chat, would you please?
I think it'll pop it up on the screen.
Yep, it will. Yep. I meant, if you're looking at your screen, will you please respond to the poll that's on the, so how confident are you knowing the drivers of your contract profitability?
And the point here is, when we try to work with a company to solve a problem, we like to think of it as a journey. Maybe it's a bit dramatic, but it's a journey. You start with, where is my problem? Do I understand where that problem, like what part of the issue is that problem? What's driving that? What's driving that? To get to a point where you can come back and say, well, I now understand not only what my problem is, that I have one, and then where it exists, but possibly get it discrete enough to know that I can find a solution.
That's always the trick. Like, right. Do I have the right data point to move the needle, right? I've got a lot of data. We're always data rich, information poor. Do I have the information I need to move?
Right, exactly. So if you're sitting there in a room, and we're going to get into something very similar. If you're sitting in there perhaps in a peer group room where you're sitting and looking at your P&L, and you say, listen, my margins are, I don't know, 12%, and I want to get to 15. Do you know how to get there? Do you know what's causing those 3 points of gap that you want to get?
I'm going to end the poll so you can see the numbers, because I think we won't be surprised. That's somewhat confident. Is so 58%. Now I know you're looking at yours, and you and I are both handy. We've been shorted a bit without 3 monitors. So we've got 12% at extremely confident, 12% at very confident, 58% at somewhat confident, 19% at not so confident. I agree, Craig. we should force you on either side, right? So
okay, well, let's jump into it. We'll close that.
Oh, well, I have no arguments. So in the chat, we're a long-term customer of MSPCFO and a rather new client of Lifecycle Insights, and would like to say that the combination of the 2 tools have been insanely powerful in helping us evolve, which is fantastic. Thank you.
That is actually our oldest customer.
She's not that old, but I know what you're saying.
Longest term customer. Okay, so if I can get into it. So what we're going to do is we're going to walk through this a little bit. And again, I'm working on one screen, so I do apologize.
Yeah.
If I fumble at all. So what we're looking at here is a distribution of clients. And without getting too much into the metrics, that this essentially shows whether your agreements are, you're hitting your effective rate or you're not. Below the line means that you're delivering more hours than you would need to deliver your effective rate. Above the line means you're delivering fewer. And what I want to point out on this chart, and we're looking there from August of last year to August of this year. What I want to point out on this chart is, first of all, this is a chart that almost every client we work with has. It looks almost exactly like this.
Yeah. Well, I've seen you do this a couple times and they've all looked like that. So.
I may have shown you the sample every time, but yes, they all look like this. And the point being is, if you look at this chart and you can kind of eyeball it, the average is well above the line. The average is they're doing better than their target effective hourly rate, that they're doing well. And what we want to say to you is, okay, you're doing well, but just keep in mind, that doesn't mean there's not opportunity for improvement. Because there's a bunch of clients on this side that we want you to focus on because they are underperforming. You are delivering more hours. And there's clients here we want you to focus on because it's funny, they're too profitable.
Yep.
They're the clients where they may look at you and say, you know, I'm
not sure why I'm paying you. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We call these your flight risks.
Yeah.
Because even though you set up a wonderful stack for them and their stuff never breaks and they never have to get on the phone with you, they still want to see you. They still want to know that they're paying for something that works.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
it's interesting because I'm going to answer Brent's question in the chat about how we combine the two conversations with this very piece later. So go ahead.
So the point being is that on this side, there sometimes can be 10 to 15% of revenue opportunity, monthly recurring revenue opportunity. The M&A businesses, I mean, recurring revenue is wonderful for many reasons, but if you're actually trying to sell your business, the multiples that you get from adding an additional dollar are really, really meaningful. So you really want to focus on keeping your monthly recurring revenue where it needs to be.
Yep.
And on this side, the ones that are flight risks, there could be 10 to 15% of your clients that may leave you, or of revenue that may leave you. Yep. The point being is your managed service business, looking at this chart, is good, but it's actually less stable than you think it is because you have clients down here that you can make more money on. And you have clients on the other side that may leave you. So what we really want to do is not fix the whole managed service business. We want to fix a few clients where there could be an outsized return on that. Do you want to come back to how we work together or should we keep going?
No, keep going. Yeah, I'll just wait until I show my screen.
Okay, so what we see here is that, let's start on the ones that are underperforming. And what we see here is clients that are paying less than, they should for the hours that you're delivering. When we talk to people and people we don't know very well, they say to us, well, if that's the case, why don't I just raise the prices? At which point my comment is maybe, but you don't have a single blunt instrument.
Yeah.
There are a variety of things that you can do to drive your returns. So if we look at this, we then can drill down. I have these preloaded. I apologize. It looks like I'm cheating. This is for actually the first nine months of this year. We have this metric we look at. It's like effective hourly rate, but it's something that we call agreement efficiency or contract efficiency if you're an Autotask user, which is we look at how much you've earned for labor and then how much you would have billed for the time that you put on that labor. Now, if they did $865,000 worth of work, if you put together an invoice for all your covered time, it would have been $865,000, and they got paid $1.4 million. That's pretty darn good. They got paid 161 cents on the dollar.
Yeah,
that's great as a company, but there are opportunities.
Yeah.
So if we look at a client here, like client 203, we can see that's not at 1.61, that's at 0.73. That's less than half of where they are. Do we want to raise the prices? You can, but if you look at it, the amount of revenue you're making per endpoint you're managing is about where you are on average. This isn't a pricing problem. The problem here is there are too many tickets. This is an operations problem because they generally do about 1/3 of a ticket per node per month, and this one is double that. So you have a client that's priced appropriately, but they're dealing with some nonsense on their ticket. This is an operations issue. And if you go in there guns blazing saying, hey, I'm going to raise your prices, they're looking around and saying, everybody on the street's going to offer me the same price. It's on you that I'm not profitable. Go away. I'm going to hire somebody else because they'll charge me the same amount. Then you say, well, maybe let's not go that way. Let's go a different tack. Oh, gosh. Ticket per node, also known as ticket per endpoint or ticket per endpoint per month. Yes, exactly.
So just this morning, I was having a conversation with a group of CSMs, and I didn't come from the managed service space, obviously. So they threw out, we were talking acronyms, and that one comment with those mostly letters, none of which formed a word.
Well, thankfully that person, decent job explaining, because I would have missed that as well. So what we can do is look at that client and we can see they're getting a lot of tickets on spam filters. Okay, this is a potential solution. 27% of their tickets are coming in from spam filters. Maybe their spam filter's too tight. Maybe there's a setting that's inaccurate. Maybe there's something they need to look at how it's set up in correlation to their email. Or they're dealing with the dreaded line of business app.
Line of business application, yes.
Maybe they need to figure out whether their line of business app should be priced the same way that a company that has a very distinct line of business app is priced the same way a company that doesn't have one. We see this very often. Line of business apps are quite frequently the source of the problem, but this one is actually fairly straightforward. You have a discrete problem. You go from identifying the agreement as not being wonderful to identifying it's a ticketing problem to identifying it's a spam filter problem, which will take you to, well, how do we adjust the spam filter? Can we fix this by fixing the spam filter at one company? And will that drive our returns? So you get to a very small problem. When I say small, I mean discrete. Yep. And you can potentially make a meaningful improvement in your business by fixing very small problems.
Well, and looking at that original chart that you had, again, it's the end outliers, right? It's the tails of that chart. So
we want people to live in the margin. Exactly.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Thank you.
Now that's one way to look at it. Another way that we look at it, because we constantly get questions, and we love talking to our clients. We have lots of talking to prospects if anybody wants to reach out, where we can show them specifically what the return could be. And right now we don't have any industry benchmarks. We only benchmark people against themselves. You're seeing how they compare to the rest of their clients in their portfolio. We have a new report, actually, I think we're releasing it today or tomorrow. We're supposed to release it yesterday, but I didn't get the email out, where we can see, well, where is there a specific problem? Let me actually take this down a little. And what we can see is that, oh gosh, for this company, let's click right here. For new users, this particular sample account spends about an hour on new user accounts. But at client 848, they spend an hour and 1.42 hours.
Gotcha.
They spend an extra 0.4 hours per new user. Well, that's over 29 tickets over the first 9 months of this year. That works out to being 11 hours. We're finding a very small problem. If we can fix the process for adding new users, we might be able to pick up 11 hours. And if you can resell that at what their current effective hourly rate is, they would make another $2,200.
Yep.
If they made another $2,200, which is pure profit because they've already have the cost of working it, they can make another 6 basis points.
Yep. So
you can hand a chart like this off to your operations people and say, listen, our line of business app, we're spending 4 hours per ticket. Usually we spend an hour. We're going to, fix it at 1 hour. If they go over an hour, we're going to charge them T&M because that's above and beyond. You can make another 12 basis points. And what we're doing is, a couple thousand here, a couple thousand there. This adds up to a fair amount. We might be looking at, I didn't add this up in my head, but it looks like it is in the neighborhood of, hold on. Let's see what the total is. It's about 0.75% of earnings. From you can deal these off as tickets to your operations team.
Right.
Please work on this. Please work on that. It's discrete. And we're not saying, listen, you as a company are not very good at Office 365. We're never going there. We're saying as a company, you do about 2/3 of an hour, about 40 minutes on every Office 365 issue. This company takes longer. Find out why this company is different than everybody else in your portfolio. The problem with benchmarking is people do things differently.
Yeah.
We're forgetting all that. We're saying it's your company, it should be consistent. But the new user stuff, that's what's killing them.
And looking at that in your bottom, what did you have, 5 or 7 that were really below the line? If you find some consistencies across those 5, right, that can also improve operations. Again, it scales up. If the bottom 5 often happen to have the same 3 issues, right, that'll scale faster in solution.
Yeah. And again, Marnie, I think you and I can both speak to us. We sell a recurring software product to the community. They are sold, they buy maybe 20 of them, which means they're sold about 100 of them. And they say, well, what is this going to do? I had one person say to me once, if I could save as much money as every vendor promised me, I'd be at 200% margins.
Right.
Which is, I accept that. So what
Yeah.
we're trying to do is in here is just show you discreetly.
Yeah.
What can you make by doing this? And some of these aren't really doable. Some of these, but they're line of business up, you made an agreement, or this is offset by something somewhere else.
Yeah.
But it is, even if you have a reason why it cannot be resolved, it is something you should be aware of and just put a pin in to say, this is something I don't want to surprise me. I know why this is happening.
It gives you an action to be taken or not taken, but at least identifies instead of the world is your oyster of problems and you may not be able to solve them.
Right. And we're not talking about, and which may be appropriate for different reasons. We're not talking about swapping out a tool. We're not talking about retraining your entire workforce. We're not talking about a difficult conversation with every client to raise prices by 5%.
Yep.
We're talking about very discrete issues.
Yep.
Which are problems.
Yeah. Well, and you figure, I mean, the way you were talking about the ticket piece or the new user onboarding, right? MSPs work so hard to reduce button clicks in general because time is money, right? So this is hitting those finite discrete pieces that save that time. Brent's ready. So when is this report well, are you going to get to that email tonight, Larry, or are you doing that tomorrow?
As I said before, and this is why I have to end the call in 10 minutes, my middle daughter has her third to last varsity soccer game, so I will not be sending out the email tonight. I have to attend to that. That is, sitting on the soccer sidelines is my happy place. My second happy place is helping MSPs. The soccer sideline is my
tomorrow, Brent. That's what I'm hearing, not today.
So
awesome. I love the insights here. Yeah.
So this is kind of how we try to help the community, how we try to help them work their book. Because again, you look at your percentages and you say, oh, I know and I'm sure a lot of you have the problem. You look there and you say, how do I make a change in my business? And the enormity of what you can do can be paralyzing.
Yes, absolutely. This is the bites of the elephant that you can eat one bite at a time, right? This is the bite-sized pieces. Yeah. Yeah.
So that was kind of what I wanted to share with the community. You said, well, let's talk a little bit about Lifecycle Insights and MSPCFO jointly helping clients, and I'll let you take
that. So you know what, I'm gonna show my screen if I can, and I should be able to, but again, with hotel internet, you never know. Looks like I was successful. I'm actually going to jump over to so I see many partners on our call. So I'm glad you all joined. So this is our QBR platform, which I'll come back to because that's, again, discrete bite-sized pieces of where we can talk about some opportunities we can drive. But I'm going to jump to our customer success module because of the way you were talking about the flight risk piece. So one of the pieces that we drive in customer success is we aim to help you segment your client base. I'm actually going to just click into another view of that to make it a little bit bigger. So when we talk about segmenting the client base, we're looking at the customer's value, think MRR, but it could be profitability versus effort, and which is typically tickets per seat. Although again, manually you could enter whatever score you wanted. When we look at these quadrants, this is where, as a QBR tool, we recommend segmenting and choosing the cadence that's appropriate for meeting with a client. You're not going to be very profitable if you're low value, low effort client. You then decide you're going to meet with 10 hours a quarter, right? You've already shot your profitability. But in our high value, high effort clients, this is where, a quarterly cadence makes sense. But where I think we align nicely to the conversation that you were just having, it was interesting. We had a mutual partner. I integrated her data last time we were at Evolve. As a matter of fact, right after talking with you, I met with her, and we're in the high effort, low value quadrant. So these people are a lot of effort. You're not getting a lot of value. I suspect they're the ones at that tail end, the left side of your graph. She came and hovered over her first client here, and her comment was, I hate this client. And I said, well, you hate this client because they're not a value to you, right? They're too squeaky wheel. They're probably spending 9 hours per user on board or whatever the issue is, right? And so this is the quadrant where you need to say, do they need to pay me more? Are there specific tickets we can solve so that we can push them down to be less effort? Or do they need to be fired because they're not going to get in our band? So I think to look at this quadrant and see, the same folks that you're talking to, like, what are those specific items that you can do? And which ones do they believe will move the needle the most? Whether that pushes them down or to the right, which one moves the needle for that one? So I think that's where the overlap is the comparison of, we kind of segment them a little differently because you've got the running scale, but it's the same idea. We're trying to help automate a way where you can identify the problem children right out of the gate. While I'm in customer success, I'm going to jump to this other piece, although it'll make folks that are life cyclers will recognize where it comes from. And this is where we're aiming to give a higher level opportunity across your entire stack. So this morning when I was talking to a group of customer success managers, we were talking about how Southwest is the king of stack alignment. And the reason Southwest Airlines is because they use the same planes so that any service manager can work on any plane, any pilot can pilot any plane, any flight attendant knows where all the pieces and parts are, right? They can swap out that, widget on that plane for the same widget on this plane because they're all the same plane. It makes you very secure, scalable, supportable, which is exactly what MSPs are trying to do for their clients. So here, this chart showing, I can filter this by tags of what my standard, these are my standards across my clients, right? Who has my standards, who does not, and where is their opportunity within an existing client. And if I dove into a single client, this isn't magic. Would love for this to be automated for sure. We're aiming to drive a few things like this. There are 3 tiles at the top. We're aiming to look at stack alignment. How aligned are they to your standards and services? Where do I have some MRR opportunity? Because to your point, MRR is where the multiples and the margins increase dramatically if you're looking at M&A activity. And then the non-recurring revenue is typically the project cost it's going to take to make the magic happen to drive the recurring revenue. So this is where, a client saying, or you are saying, okay, this client on the land of CSAT, they're using client heartbeat. I might want them to use IT Boost, right? They're partially aligned, but I can earn another $200 a month if I can move the needle and take them off of client heartbeat, which they're already paying, and move them to IT Boost or whatever. So that's the way we're giving like high level opportunity insights. A lot of folks are trying to track this in spreadsheets right now, and will freely admit that they're not doing it often enough, updated enough, or haven't really dug in, because you have to defeat the blank page and get in there once before you can track it and really having insights over everybody. The other piece is some of the initial, like, what are the other opportunities just inside regular day-to-day? What information do we have? What automation can we put in place that we look at in a business review or over time? So I'll just take a minute to speak to kind of some of the inventories that folks are doing, which are really what drive folks to Lifecycle Insights. So if you're already a life cycler, you're going to check the box and say like, yes, I knew all of that. And that's what I was using it for. You can pat yourselves on the back, right? In the asset list, you're looking for 2 things. And this is where I think, Larry, you and I have had interesting conversations, because we look at asset lifecycle management, right? Where if I'm looking at operating systems, I can swatch away the healthy yellow and green ones and say, here are my Windows 7 machines that I need to, I want to sell a recommendation to eliminate these machines. But what I think is interesting is where you and I have talked about ticket overlap. And if this client is the one that is having all of the problems because they're complaining about downtime on devices or inability to patch machines, it's probably these 7 machines, right? So we might have insights into the devices that are causing them the ticket issue. And so it's a quick way to get to what the resolution should be to solve the profitability problem and to sell the project to get asset lifecycle management kind of
Right.
under.
To that point, I think we often talk about, how this is a great idea for the MSP to engage in it. And it certainly is, because it is a revenue opportunity. It is an opportunity to, reduce the number of tickets. But I think there's also a real opportunity to have a conversation with the client to say, listen, I know that if I were in the place of an MSP, listen, I know that you think that I'm a lovely person and you love chatting with me, but you'd probably rather be doing your job than having us fix your down machines.
Yeah.
So if you spend $1,000 with us, we may be able to save you $2,000 of productivity.
Yeah.
And it's about looking at it from their perspective as well. When you're looking at stuff that's dated, or God forbid, it's a security risk. If you spend $5,000 on a better security system, are you less likely to, have a ransomware attack?
Yeah. Well, and that's the whole driving business outcome, thinking of it in terms of terms they care about, not that you care about, right? Like they don't care about your
it's
profitability.
win-win.
But,
I mean,
yeah,
we're not in this business strictly to make money, or clients are not. We're there, and you and I are neither. We're in this business. We're all in this business to help people do better at their jobs.
Yeah.
And if you're talking to a law firm, they want to be selling their time at some ridiculous amount per hour, not on the phone discussing why their computer is not talking to their printer.
Yep, absolutely.
So
the next kind of inventory along the way is users, right? So people are 85%, 95% of the problem sometimes. I'll make this a little bigger if I can. Here folks can quickly get insights into who's not in my PSA that is in Microsoft 365. This is sometimes, to your point, solving the business problem for your client, because if they're paying for licenses they don't need, we can help eliminate them. Making you a strategic partner, right? That's always a value add, because again, we want to help. For sure, solving security problems, right? If they haven't logged in over 30 days and MFA is disabled, this is going to close a gap in security if we can address this. And maybe they're users that you should be, charging for. So it might be an opportunity for the MSP. We have a lot of integrations that folks include here. So we've got cybersecurity phishing training. This helps you highlight through Breach Secure Now and Know Before, if there are opportunities for additional training they may need. We also have some SaaS monitoring tools that's giving people some interesting insights in these reports. The other automation report piece, it's interesting. Like I said, I was with 10 different companies this morning that had customer success managers. And we were talking about the automation pieces that they wanted to use in a business review. And one of them was contracts. So you can pull over managed, from ConnectWise, your agreements and additions or auto task contracts. But there's a lot of value in not just delivering a budget to your client for your services, but to add the line of business application, printer copier services, phone providers, et cetera. You might find some opportunities in doing that, of where you can help them save some money, or if nothing else, a strategic chance to see, like if they're paying their entire dentist, so I'll use Dentrix, right? If they had to pay that all at once in October, when you don't go tell them about 2 servers they need to replace, it's October, right? Whenever they're paying a one-time bill for something, you don't want to bring a new expense up. Like let's be strategic and have a budget conversation around that, on either side of it. So it's interesting how the contract conversation and really having a seat at the table as a strategic provider, or, a strategic partner, is driving some opportunities in a different way, right? It's not specifically pointing out a problem, but it brings you to the table to have a conversation about, you've got 17 different VoIP providers. If we could reduce that to one, maybe one you're getting a spiff on, that's an opportunity, but it's also a savings for the business. So I think that's the other way that a lot of our partners are using some of the automation, the budgeting, to drive that conversation. And then lastly, of course, is what we had said at the beginning, which is around risk, right? So when you are delivering an assessment that is around the things causing business problems, right? Whether it's with a prospect or with an existing client, to be able to take that red item that's at risk and building a recommendation from it, right? So we're going to solve these problems with X, Y, or Z recommendation, right? I can finally get rid of those Windows 7 machines that are causing all of the problems. And our existing partners have certainly heard me say that story more than once, right? So now we've bundled together business problem that we're solving, business risk, how we're closing the gap, to build a technology recommendation, right? That that helps move the needle. So I think that's how we help MSPs look at opportunities within their existing customer base. And again, that is where in a down economy, the businesses, there should be about 30% growth opportunities. And one of our partners says that there's a 1-to-1 correlation between the number of business reviews done and the number of contracts closed, or quotes delivered. And folks want to talk about their own business. So if you can use the tools that either of us provide or that folks are doing on spreadsheets to talk about your client's business and moving the needle, there's a lot of opportunity within that.
Yeah, no, I think it's wonderful. It's a great product that you brought to the market.
Well, I would say the same for you. So cheers, high five. I can see 8 chats just showed up. So let me see. I wasn't taking notes fast enough. Okay, so Craig, luckily for you, I'll send out the recording. Agreement tracking. Oh yeah, okay. Delta. Yep. Agreement specifics. Ticket time opportunities. Okay, Larry, those are for you. So Craig, yes, standardization, same thing, stack alignment. So Adam, the customer success feature, you can go into the subscription page, which is under account settings, and add that. It is an additional cost for customer success. Thanks, Craig, threw in there, upgrade your subscription. Already asked and answered. So, because I want to get Larry to his daughter's game, I want to throw these threes up there. If you are not a life cycler and want to be a life cycler, we always are happy to give a 30-day free trial, which you can find here. Connect with me on LinkedIn if you want a full demo. Luckily, with the name Marnie Stockman, you can just search that and I'll be the only one that pops up. So thanks, Mom and Dad, for that one. And then Larry, you want to say how they can get in touch with Soleil and your team?
Yeah, I think is it the next slide?
It is. I pulled it up. Yep.
Yeah, Soleil is obviously on my team. She's on this call as well, doing a wonderful job answering some of the chats on our behalf. If you have any questions about the product and you're not a current customer, or even if you are, Soleil is definitely a good person to speak with. Don't reach out to me. I'm not great about returning emails. Things get buried. And yeah, we'd love to chat. We're going to be in at IT Nation. We'll be at Marnie and I think both are going to be at IT Nation and at Evolve separately, but we're both attending. So if you find us on the road, please, by all means, come and say hi to us. Ask us any questions you have. Ask us if you're a client, ask us how to use the product better. When we're at these meetings, just so you know, there's about 5 hours of work and then it's a lot of just office hours. So please interrupt us.
We're happy to chat. Yeah.
I can speak for myself. I'm never doing anything too important to speak with you. Anybody, and if you have, I know there's some questions specific with the product, you can reach out to me directly. You can reach out to Soleil. She'll triage it and send it to the right person. And, it's always a pleasure to talk to the community. If you guys have anything, please do reach out. Soleil's probably the best person to talk to, but if you need to get to me, you can find me on LinkedIn as well, Larry Cobrin, or go to Soleil and she'll put you in touch with me. We love talking to everybody.
Yeah, same. I think that's one of the things I liked right away when we met is we had the same approach to just wanting to help folks in the community type of thing. So I thank everyone for joining us. I will send out the recording. So Craig, you can go take screenshots and notes off of the recording and fast forward to the parts you liked the most. And Larry, good luck to your daughter.
Oh my gosh, I'm crying that it's almost over.
I was just discussing that today. I coached my daughter. So when she graduated, I was like, oh, that is 4 hours out of everyone's day and a lot of, fun I don't get to participate in.
I will be complaining about standing out in the cold on a chilly fall day. And I will be crying when I no longer have to stand out.
Stand on the cold. Awesome.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Marnie, for having me.
Thanks all. Yep. Have a good one. Bye-bye.